Hello and welcome to the demo video for the constant staff appraisal. Um, this one really just came about because of a few posts that I saw on various social media sites by business owners saying that 360 staff appraisals are often quite inaccurate because they'll sit at the end of the year and they'll try and give scores to people based on the year. And then, for example, if the person's been absolutely brilliant the whole year and messed something up a week ago, then all the scores are then tainted because that's what's fresh in the person's mind. And yeah, those kind of things. So what ended up happening was people were kind of putting down these scores and then thinking, well, yeah, that's what they think of that person at that point. Meanwhile, it's very skewed because it's based on one event that happened recently, that type of thing. Also, they're saying that then you've got this massive rigmarole at the end of the year to look back over the year and try and think about, how the staff have performed, all that kind of thing. So one of the people said, well, if only there was something that you could constantly update that would then bring the scores together and be quite specific, but also quite general in your approach and have a mixture of the two without being overcomplicated. So I've taken that on board and I've tried to do something that is very simple to use, but hopefully will capture both sides of this, where you've got your what you think of the person's performance each month, but also those ad hoc things that happen throughout the year. So let me move on and show you exactly what I had in mind. First of all, this first page, the first tab, you select the start month and the start year for your whatever you want this annual period to be. This can be your calendar year, your business financial year. It could be I don't know, payroll year, whatever you want to do. So select the month and put in the year, so for 2021, for example, and then you can name up to 5 categories. Now, these categories are completely up to you. It depends on what you want to monitor. If you want to break the categories down by different types of scores, so for example, if you want to give someone a punctuality score or an appearance score or a work effort score or a determination score, whatever, I don't know, you can make up whatever categories. You can categorize the different things. You can give them a score based on different aspects of their work or the job or whatever the job entails. Alternatively, you could break this down much like a 360 staff appraisal, where you say, well, we want to get a score from their peers, we want to get a score from their superiors, we want to get a score from their clients, we want to get a score from their subordinates, whoever else. It's up to you. So what you can then do is you can categorize whatever. You can use up to 5, whatever you want. You only need to use one, leave the rest blank. It really doesn't matter whatever you want to do. Just bear in mind that you're going to need to provide a score for each person per category per month. Now, you don't have to do it every month. It'll take averages and it'll work it out. You don't have to do it every month, but you obviously doing it once a month does give you the most data, which makes it the most accurate. So you can assign the different categories. You could even assign a mixture of both. So you could assign maybe effort, appearance, punctuality, client feedback, and manager report, or whatever. You can decide what you have those 5 categories as. That's all you need to do to set that tab up. The next two, the 2 red ones here, are the ones where we need to fill in the scores. So once you've done that setup, don't change these categories half once you've filled in scores and things. If you do, bear in mind they'll just change on the other tabs and you'll then have the wrong scores, the wrong category. So try and set those up beforehand. And then all you do is your staff and scores. You just put in employee number, list the staff names. You can put in the start and end date when the staff actually starts, when they're employed to when their contract terminates. This will just appear on the report. It doesn't really have too much of an effect on anything else. You don't have to put it in if you don't want to. Then here you can see it says category 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, January, February, March, April, and there's a score for each person. So the score's out of 100. So you can just put in a score. I've literally just put random figures in here, so I haven't thought about this at all. But you can you can put in a score for each person. So if you, for example, don't put in scores for January, then what it'll do is it'll use February and March's score for the first quarter. It'll just show no score for January. If you put in January and March, then it will ignore February. It won't show February, but it'll show the other two averages for that quarter. So you don't have to fill in all the scores. You can put in as many as you want. If you have a month where you've got a crazy month in and you can't do this, and you go, we can't do it, just leave it for next. It doesn't matter. It may make your scores a little bit more inaccurate, but it doesn't stop the spreadsheet from working. So that's all you do, is really just fill in that score. Now, this is the score that traditionally you would have filled in on a 360 staff appraisal. This is just a score out of 100 based on what you think that person's done that month on your kind of, at the end of the month, okay, what has so-and-so done this month? Yeah, let's give them a score of that. There's not an awful lot of science, so to speak, that goes into this. The other one that's slightly more scientific in that regard is what I've called ad hoc observations. So I've put in 250 in here. Again, these are completely random. I've just randomly generated things. But what you can do is put in the date when something happens. So let's just say, for argument's sake, you've noticed today that one staff member's gone over and above, beyond what they were expected to with a particular client, whatever the case might be. You can put in the date, select which staff it was. That's a list from your staff and scores tab. Select which category it falls into, because it might fall into a particular category. You do need to select one of the categories, otherwise it won't appear on the other report. So if you've got very specific categories, but things could fall out of that category, you may just want to put a general, have a general category or something like that, or put the ad hoc observations into a specific category only. That's up to you, but you do need to select a category and then just simply give it a score. So 5 would be the highest, which is the greatest positive. 4, 3, 2, 1. So in other words, if you like tremendously impressed with what the person's done, 5. If you're mildly impressed with what the person's done, 1. There's no 0, because there shouldn't be a 0. It's either positive or negative. If you're mildly unimpressed, -1. And if you're massively unimpressed, -5. So you can then basically give a score to each of these events that's taken place, or each of these things that you've noticed, or the actions that they've done that you've picked up on, or whatever, as they happen. And then you can put in a very short description. You don't want to write an episode of War and Peace, just one line of what that was that happened. You can say they went over and above with client A on such and such a project, or whatever the case might be. Just make a very short description. And these are then ad hoc ones, that kind of, that happened on that day, that happened on that day. So you don't have to remember all of these things as they happen. You can simply pop them in, hence the name constant staff appraisal. You just need to decide what kind of things you're looking for, and then put those in here as and when you see them. So you've got your overall scores that you put in regardless, and then you've got your ad hoc observations. Now, these scores don't affect these scores at all. They may affect them in your mind, because you might be thinking, well, this month where you gave them a 96, maybe you added 4 or 5 ad hoc things in that month that has made you give them such a high score. So maybe psychologically, from your point of view, they do affect the score, but the spreadsheet doesn't tie them together. It keeps them separate. So you can almost look at that with a fresh pair of eyes each month and go, what do I think about that person for that month in that particular category? And then the specific ones you can list here, should you want to, should they be deemed necessary to put onto the ad hoc list. That's what you do. So this one, fill in that monthly, the values. This one, as you go along, you can resort. As you can see, these dates are all in weird order. I haven't sorted them in date order, but that's fine. You can resort. And that's all you fill in as you go along. This is the overall company report that generates automatically. So as you can see here, we've got the year-to-date overall scores in all the different categories, and the overall score of the average of these categories combined in the green. If you scroll down, we can see what each of those scores did per category per quarter. So there's category 1 in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. You can see what's happening there. Here you can see per month. So you've got obviously the months of the year. You can see what the average scores were. So these are all the staff combined. As you go down here, you can see these are the ad hoc. So the top ones are all the scores that you filled in on a monthly basis. And these are your ad hoc. So you can see what positive, what negative per category over the to date. And you can also see the overall scores. So obviously these scores are all going to be added together. So the more negatives you have, the longer this red negative graph will be. Here you can see the same thing. So the overall negative and positive ad hoc over the different quarters per category. So here you've got obviously category 1 together, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, category 2, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And then down at the bottom is a graph where you've got those ad hoc ones per month. So you've got all of those reports. This is a company-wide, so you can have a look at the company-wide results. But then you can also go to the one that says staff appraisal, and it's exact same graphs. The last graph is missing. I'll show you what I've put in its place. But this time you simply come and select a staff member, and it populates for that staff member. If you change to someone else, the graphs change accordingly. So it'll populate accordingly. So you can just select each staff member at a time. Again, year-to-date overall scores, quarter 1, 2, 3, 4, the different categories. These are the scores per quarter, average scores per month. This is when I say average scores, those are all the categories combined. So you can see the overall kind of average per month. Here you can see the ad hoc scores year-to-date, ad hoc scores per quarter is available. And then instead of having the monthly one, what I've got down here is I've pulled out the top 3 positive and the top 3 negative scores. So you can actually see here, if you're doing this appraisal, incidentally, this page, the gray here is off the page. So the white part is the actual printable page. So if you save as a PDF, you can save this as a PDF. If yours doesn't save properly, just go to view page break and just drag the borders. And because the idea is to save this as a PDF. So if you've got this and you're sitting in front of your staff, at least you've got the top 3, the bottom 3, as far as the ad hoc scores are concerned, so that you're reminded of those kind of top 3 and bottom 3 things that you've noticed throughout the year, as well as the other scores. Also, things like this where you've got a massive negative of category 3 during quarter 3, that may well then go and explain why you've given them a more negative score during those quarters up above here. It might not tie in because it doesn't, as I said, compare on the spreadsheet, but that's maybe why you've given them a negative score in your mind, because of all the negative things that have happened. Alternatively, you might give them a positive score on some of the months where more positive things have happened. So yeah, that's just the layout. I've also kept them the same. So if you do want to compare, for example, staff with the overall company, you can toggle between the 2 different tabs and you can see how they compare with the overall averages. The last thing on this tab is actually the second one here. So you can select the staff, but you can also select the show best and worst per quarter. So these at the bottom here, the 3 best, the 3 worst. So far, this is set to year to date. If you actually sit down with your staff each quarter, you can change this to example quarter 1. If you're sitting down at the end of the first quarter, and then what it says first quarter only, and it shows the top 3 and the bottom ones you can see there. So from the first quarter. So yeah, either or if you do the whole year, or per quarter if you're sitting down per quarter, then it just shows those last 3. The other graphs won't change because that shows per quarter anyway. And I think that's it. Your overall company report, your individual report, ad hoc each line, each time something happens, just make the selections, put in some details, and then assign the different scores to the different categories that you've selected. If they're blank, if you haven't selected them, just leave the scores out. And score it out of 100. Staff, starting date, start and end of their contract. And that's it. The next year, when you want to start again, you can simply keep a blank spreadsheet, open a new one, make sure your categories are correct for the new year, select the month, input the new year, And then what you can do is then go back to the other one, get your staff names, employee numbers, copy that from the first spreadsheet, copy, come over to the second spreadsheet, not paste normal, paste values, always paste values on one of these spreadsheets. When you paste the values, it'll paste in your staff data, and you'll be ready to go as far as putting in the numbers for the new year and any ad hoc observations. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that this helps you if this is something you're after. I know a lot of people have been after something that they can do on an ongoing basis rather than once a year or whatever they were doing. So if this helps, I wish you all the best with your staff appraisals. Thank you very much and goodbye.